The court. Objection, Your Honor. Sorry I'm late. I ran over a lawyer on the way here. Wait, what? I meant allegedly ran over. They represent the defendant? Don't worry, I watched Better Call Saul. Oh, and I got sued for murder once. This is not a real courtroom anyway. Who cares? Your Honor, I apologize for interrupting, but all of us have emotions. Even you, dear prosecutor, displayed anger. Sadness, fear, anger, and cringe are what we call unpleasant or even painful emotions. Why don't we get rid of them? In any psychology textbook, besides that same goddamn photo of Sigmund Freud, there should be a chapter on emotions. File a complaint if they don't have it. How else will I identify him in my dreams? Emotion refers to the spontaneous and automatic responses to perceptions and thoughts. Say you perceive the miracle of life. Your emotion will be fear because you are now in the room with two hippos. Emotions can be classified by level of arousal and pleasantness. While the feeling of correcting someone on the internet is pleasant with low arousal, after realizing you were the wrong one, it quickly turns into the unpleasant and high arousal feeling of cope. You should realize by now that emotion and physical sensation are basically married. One theory thinks that emotion is submissive and only follows what physical sensation says. Another theory thinks that physical sensation and emotion are in an equal relationship. And two-factor theory thinks that physical sensation is still the dominant one in the household. But whenever physical sensation is aroused, subjective feelings will go out and ask cognitive assessment for advice. In other words, physical sensation is being cucked. Cognitive appraisal, which in English means our ability to assess the context we are in, is very likely involved in emotions. Look at the suspension bridge experiment, showing that guys will do anything to talk to a hot girl. Also, that people can interpret fear as horniness. So on your next date, ride a roller coaster, watch a horror movie, or talk about the current socio-economic climate. My point is, reason. How can you sue emotion when you two are having an affair? How is that relevant? Judge, shut him up! Emotions are found even in reptiles. They have the limbic system, the main components in creating emotions. Maybe those crocodile tears are real. The wide range of animals that possess emotions tells us their evolutionary value. Emotions get us into the state of survival. The emotion of anger and fear helps us fight or flight. All three is for those of us with no stamina whatsoever. The processing of emotional stimuli can even be unconscious, starting to change in our body state before we are even aware of the threats. Strong emotions lead to the formation of a strong memory. We remember events better the more they mean something to us. I need to be able to find the memory of my near-death experience with an elephant and miss my memory of live-action Dumbo. Or I would try to slap an elephant in the ass again. In short, emotion optimizes the brain to function in specific contexts. You can't spell emotion without motion. And emo. Emotion is what gives rise to motivation. Without an emotionally fulfilling goal or emotionally distressing punishment, you would do nothing, sleep all day, barely eat, wonder how it came to this, overwhelmed with shame. Except you can't even feel shame because shame also counts as a punishment. Now, who wants ice cream? Not you. No matter how logical the reasons behind your actions, another emotional reason hides underneath. I call it the motivation bedrock. Let's say you think buying this golden toilet brush is the most logical way to show off wealth. The need to show off wealth comes from the desire to conform to society's obsession with wealth due to the fear of failing socially or isolation. Or maybe you are just an idiot and bought it by accident. Emotion is a universal experience that binds us together. Let's say a random guy from Paris got arrested. I may not know him, but I do understand the disdain and hatred he felt as he burns down the Lovelock Bridge. Facial expressions that represent emotions are useful for quick communication, like happiness, sadness, fear, and anger. That said, some people are really bad at reading emotions. To understand the emotions of others, we must first feel those emotions. This skill is something called empathy, which I have a lot of. Apparently, we feel that more towards a fictional movie character than a real person on the internet. We might even hate said person on the internet for the grave sin of ratioing us. The useful function of emotions I have mentioned can become harmful in some situations. So much hatred can be solved by understanding the people you hate. Like hating the whole group of people because some members committed horrible actions, or hating someone for doing something when we ourselves would have done the same in that situation. But hatred itself dissuades us from wanting to seek and process information. Upholding justice, peace, and ethics becomes a side quest compared to making ourselves feel better. That's how unintended targets are hurt and the cycle of pain and suffering continues. So basically, a game of League of Legends. We don't have to hate criminals to arrest and punish them. Other emotions, for example, compassion towards potential victims, can replace hatred to motivate us to stop injustices and crimes. Emotions are not always useful in every situation. They sometimes override us and blind us. Hey, you just admitted guilt. If emotion is guilty, you are equally guilty. Look at the neural pathway. You are practically inside each other at all times. Don't phrase it like that. Remember when I said you two are having an affair? You are deeper in each other than you thought. Okay, that's foul. Just look at CBT, which stands for... I know what CBT stands for. Of course you do. But I was referring to cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT is based on the theory that emotions come from the interpretations of events, which is the cognitive appraisal I mentioned earlier. CBT aims to change emotion through changing cognitive distortions, which is a fancy word for skill issues. If a girl rejects me, instead of thinking that I am worthless and will die alone, I could focus on the fact that I get to preserve my virginity even longer. Then I won't be sad. I will be miserable. But if I question the link between the rejection and my self-worth and realize that I could not predict the future, I would be less sad and conclude that I overthought too much for one example. Given how effective CBT is to treat anxiety and depression, guess we can say that flawed reasoning is also to blame for these two common mental disorders. Hey, I'm not on trial here. It does not matter how big brain you think you are. The brain doesn't follow a simple information processing model. Biases are the lens that focuses and blocks certain information from your memory and surroundings. Biases usually come from assumptions, so I'm including them in the lens too. Assumptions establish some information, usually from memory, as truths to base the processing on. CBT challenges assumptions with questions and behavioral experiments, which involve testing your assumptions with actions and then observing and reflecting on the results. Next time you see someone doing weird stuff in public, it could be just a behavioral experiment, bro. Behavioral experiments provide evidence to disprove false assumptions, as shown by this weird version of rock, paper, scissors. Some assumptions come from emotions. Hatred towards children might lead you to assume that every kid is always annoying and insufferable, thus ignoring the fact that they have to sleep eventually and will grow up into adults one day. Ha! You just incriminated your client again! I never said emotion was my client. That was just your assumption. Anyway, I'm gonna do another video on assumptions, so subscribe to be notified when that drops. Motivation is another key to information processing in the brain. It causes the processing to happen and lets us know what result is desirable for us. Let's say you see a stranger tied to the train tracks. Our reasoning chooses the outcome in line with our motivations, which could range from to help that person, to not get involved, to make that person suffer, or to expose the darkness in human nature. If your motivation is to be viewed as a good person, the best decision is to let that person die so you can control the narrative. Reasoning would be directionless without motivation. Irrationality actually means to act against the motivations you care about. Sometimes we gatekeep motivation and label others as irrational if they don't prioritize the motivations we value, such as staying alive, finding a romantic partner, fulfilling life goals, or getting those precious internet points. Since I'm not a kid anymore, I should give up on finding a romantic partner. Emotions could lead to irrationality, but at the same time, since emotion determines motivation, the purpose of rationality is to serve emotion. Even the cold and calculating psychopaths have emotions that drive their thoughts and actions. They are only called psychopaths as they lack empathy and they are used as profile pics by edgy teens. Treating emotion as your enemy is similar to arguing on the internet about whether Superman or Goku would win in a fight, when the real winners are those who repost the arguments onto YouTube. Forcefully suppressing emotion is not effective in the long term. How should we deal with emotions? If we fail to change our appraisal of events and unpleasant emotions start torturing us, the only option left is human sacrifice. Wait, no, I meant mindfulness is mindfulness. Mindfulness refers to the ability to observe and be aware of your present emotions and thoughts without judgment or attachments. When we recognize an emotion as it is, it loses its power over us. The same way Santa Claus was ruined for me after I recognized that he is a weirdo who sees kids when they're sleeping. Accepting the present moment doesn't mean rejecting change or justifying immoral behavior. Rather, acceptance is a starting point to change the future. I can accept that I have no friends in the present, but still try to make friends in the future. I am certain I will get one, just need to wait for AI to develop. The balance between acceptance and change is incorporated into CBT third wave treatments, and they are effective in treating mood-related mental disorders. Judgments and attachment to unpleasant emotions and thoughts are like trying to argue with a troll. The troll will eat you. Don't make emotion part of your identity. We already have the Instagram follower count for that. I hereby declare this a mistrial. But learn mindfulness instead. Meditation is not the only way to cultivate mindfulness. As long as you stick to the principles of mindfulness, any activity can be mindful. Walking, eating, taking a dump, or even hiding from the police. Wanting emotion to disappear is like me wanting my eyesight to disappear after looking in the mirror. Leaving behind only pleasant emotion is also impossible. Pleasantness needs unpleasantness to exist, like commentary channels need internet drama. All emotions have their purposes. Yes, sometimes they can cause distress, but other times they give you a reason to be alive. We should not try to push down all of our emotions, because that won't work forever. But learn to deal with them, understand them, befriend them, and let them go after feeling them. Even though emotions are part of us, we are more than our emotions. Now that I've broken down the misconception that reason is superior to emotion, I hereby pronounce you two married. This makes no sense at all. If you have any complaints as to how poorly the trial follows legal procedures, put them in the comments so I can ignore them, or leave whatever comments you feel like leaving. Please like and subscribe while you are at it. Oh my god, kiss already!